I thought I was in the position I needed to be. I was 7th, the first non-Ford in line. And I'm like, we still have to pit. So that cycle happens. And I think we messed up. I mean, if you look, a handful of Fords, literally a handful, probably 5, pitted. And then me and Truex pitted by ourselves.
On the following lap.
Yeah, I think we f***ed up. I mean, that's just beyond. So Truex had, let me try to explain this to the people. Okay. Truex had 7 more laps of fuel in his tank anyway than I did. So 7 laps of fuel. I'm just going to round out and totally guess here. Let me just say that's a second and a half more fuel that I need to take to pack my fuel cell full to make it to the end versus Truex. So I come on pit road. Truex is right behind me. Well, I leave my pit stall. We took fuel only, and we had to take a certain amount of fuel. So let's just call it, we had to stop for fuel for 5 seconds. That means I had to stop when they plug in the car with fuel. I need 5 seconds of fuel. Truex probably only needed 3 seconds of fuel. So with only 2 of us that decided we were going to pit together, he comes out on pit road 2 seconds ahead of me. And the time that we lost by not being bumper to bumper leaving pit road, that is another 2 seconds of detriment that we had for our 11 team. So the cars will go faster. We're drafting even when we're running 65 miles an hour. Like when we hit the end of pit road and we start accelerating, if you have 2 cars that are bumper to bumper, they will accelerate at least 2 seconds faster around the racetrack in 1 lap versus one car that leaves and then a couple seconds later, another car leaves. So add in the 2 extra seconds of fuel that we put in, add in the 2 seconds that we lost not accelerating up to speed because we only pitted with one other car or planned to. That puts me 4 seconds behind. Bam, I go from 7th or 8th to basically last of the cars that came out on, inside the last fuel window, and that I was screwed at that point.
Well, you see the cars that are in the lead towards the end of the race. So you had, if I'm not mistaken, you had 4 packs of cars pit together. You had the first group, which was that leading group of Fords that the RFK cars were in. Your 3 or 4 car group is second. Then there's another 3 or 4 car group with Ty and Christopher Bell.
Then the big group.
And then the big group, which had Kyle
a lot
Larson
of Chevys.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which Ricky was in.
Right. So that was a key moment. So not only is it beneficial to have your tank as full as you can towards the end of the race. So by staying out longer, those Chevys that stayed out the longest, they also had to take less fuel because there's less laps in the race that you need fuel for. So they were able to stop at a shorter distance anyway. So that was a big move. I kind of, we all, when we got back to the house, we went upstairs. We watched the last fuel run because I was very curious on, okay, where was Ricky in this whole thing? He was 20th, by the way, when the green flag stop started. He was 20th. So he was in not a good spot, in my opinion. But he executed really well. I watched. He moved himself up the Chevy line by getting on and off pit road well. And the Chevy strategy of staying out a little longer and with a bulk of cars was hugely beneficial as well. And they all linked up quicker. So Chevy's won the strategy game, in my opinion. It's interesting. We usually, if we don't have, as Toyotas, we don't have an alliance with anyone, right? We're all independent, but we always fight numbers, right? We're always at a disadvantage on numbers. And with there only being 7 of us, right? It's so hard to get us in one place at one time because there is so few of us.
Yeah.
But we finally got it towards the end of the race where we were, it was at the end of the second stage. It was me and Truex and Ty and a few other Toyotas, and we're all in the top line. And I'm thinking in my head, and I said it after the caution came out. I'm like, I was such an idiot. I should have tried to make an attempt to pass Truex to at least block the inside lane, which Fords then freight trained us at the end of the second stage because they had 6 Fords all lined up. If you block the track, they can't go anywhere. So I think we flubbed up there as well, like not blocking the track, which is also, in my opinion, if I fast forward, where RCR f***ed up. They should have not done that last lap restart, in my opinion. Of course, it's hindsight. It's always 2020. It didn't work out for them. It could have easily just worked out for them, but it didn't. I think they should have, because I said it earlier in the race on my radio, block the racetrack. If you want to win, and we talked about this in our meetings.
One of each car lead.
One of each car in each lane, because there is no third lane.
Right.
So block both lanes, and that kind of gives you.
One of them's going to be leading.
Yeah. Otherwise, you put all your eggs in one basket, which they did on that green-white checker, and say, all right, we're just going to put both of our cars down the bottom. And if I had to get in their head, it was probably, they had Byron behind them, so they were probably thinking, well, let's get these 3 Chevys all in line. Sometimes you just, at the end, you got to say,
but you saw with RFK
screw the numbers, huh?
Right? You saw with RFK too, though, that those 2 cars were together for a majority of the race at the end, right? And Kyle and Austin were behind them. There was a point where Kyle and Austin leave or pull out from behind the RFK cars, and the RFK cars are swallowed up.
Yeah, it was because the third car in line was the Chevy. They were confident that the third car, right? It's all about numbers, right? So those 2 cars, the RCR cars that made a move on the RFK cars with 2 to go, or coming to 2 to go, they were confident that Byron was going to go with them, which he did. So they made the right move at the right time, especially you want to get the lead anyway. Like, people wait till the last lap. God dang. Y'all saw my tweet. That drove me crazy watching the end of the Xfinity race. Everyone running in a single file line, like 13th with 2 to go. Like, what are you doing? But they did the right move. Kyle and Austin made the right move to try to get the race in control before it got to the white flag, because most likely we were going to get a caution, which we did. But yeah, they were in control. They tried too hard to help each other. I mean, that's kind of what happened. But clearly, I thought RFK were the 2 strongest cars. Is that kind of what you saw as well?
Yeah, it certainly looked like it. I mean, when they're running together, it helps give that impression that they're the strongest cars.
Yeah. For years, it's like everyone's just like, oh, Penske's so great. I'm like, they are great, and their cars are fast, but they just are always bumper to bumper. So whatever move the front car makes, they just get followed, which makes it easier.